on their 16th birthday wish for something like a car or presents or whatever it is, but that was not Malala Yousafzai's wish. So, her wish was the purpose of her speech was to get education for all people, and more specifically girls. She was born in Swat Valley, Pakistan in 1997 on July 12th. In her town, her father ran a local school, so she was always really passionate about learning and going to school. And so was her father too. He was an education activist, and he was really passionate about that too. But when she was 12, the Taliban came to her town and they banned TV and music, and they also banned school for girls. So she knew that this was wrong, so she started anonymously blogging for the BBC, and over the next 3 years, her and her dad became pretty well known, around for being activists and standing up for what's right. And to backtrack a little bit, so after these 3 years, on October 9th, 2012, she was riding home on a bus with her friend, and then someone from the Taliban recognized her, and they actually tried to kill her. So she got shot in the forehead, but she's actually survived. So when she was in critical condition, she was airlifted to Berlin, which is really far away from where she was at the time. But after months of recovering, she decided that she was going to take this experience and turn it into something bigger instead of hiding from the Taliban. So 9 months later, on her 16th birthday, she gave this speech at the United Nations on July 12th. And so that day, it's now called Malala Day, and it's just kind of used to honor her and represent her message and stuff. So this is where she gave her speech. There was a lot of people in attendance, also a lot of students and stuff, and her family too. So she already has ethos, obviously, just by her first-hand experience of having her education taken away and being shot by the Taliban and stuff like that. Her pathos, so in her speech she talks about how she is just another person that this the Taliban has affected, and there's so many girls and boys too around the world that just don't have an education. So she talks about how she's the voice for people who can't speak. And then how she uses logic in her speech. She talks about how the reason the Taliban took away education is because they're afraid of what women could do with that education, and they're afraid of change. So there's a lot of rhetorical devices in her speech, but these are some that I picked. So this one is an anaphor. It's kind of like Beyonce's. It was she's saying thank you to these people, thank you to those people, and she kind of just repeats that. This one is a simile. It says, and if we want to achieve our goal, then let us empower ourselves with the weapon of knowledge, and let us shield ourselves with the unity of togetherness. So this is just kind of talking about being strong and going through this and standing up for yourself. This is an analogy. It says, dear sisters and brothers, we realize the importance of light when we see darkness. We realize the importance of our voice when we are silenced. In the same way, when we were in Swat, in the north of Pakistan, we realized the importance of books and pens when we've sung them. And then, go to the next one. So this is the video clip.
Today, here, the voice saying, the pen is mightier than sword, was true. The extremists were and they are afraid of the power of education frightens them. They are afraid of women. The power of the voice of women frightens them. And that is why they killed 14 innocent students in the recent attack in Quetta. And that is why they killed female teachers and polio workers in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. That is why they are blasting schools every day. Because they were and they are afraid of change, afraid of equality that we will bring into our society.
So there's a lot of reasons why this speech will endure. First of all, like Malala Day, that's every day on July 12th. So every day that day rolls around, people can kind of like think about her message and think about what she said. And then also another reason is she was like one of the youngest ever Nobel Peace Prize winners. So that definitely brings like credibility to her message and the day. And in her speech, she spreads like peace and not hate. She talks about like how even if she had a gun in her hand, and she was in front of the guy who shot her, like she would never kill him because she knows that that's wrong. And she talks about how she wants education for the sons and the daughters of the Taliban too. And then significance then and now, when the news first came out, a lot of people were holding like vigils for her, praying for her and like her recovery and stuff like that. And then a year after her speech, she released the book I'm Malala, and it has over like 2 million copies sold. And also her and her father run the Malala Fund that like writes grants for places in need. So Malala's speech showed strength and courage. She knew what was right and stood up for it, and overall, it really was a great speech. Thank you for listening.